Welcome to Winchester Week. This is going to be a great 7-day experiment where I'm going to be talking about Supernatural for 7 days in a row with a brand new video talking about episodes that I love and adore. So I thought to kick this off, why not go ahead and review the pilot itself, the episode that started it all. This is the pilot is one of the most fundamental aspects of a television show. It sells the idea of the show, and it's what submerges you in the world and defines the look and feel of it all. And in the case of a 15-year-long and 300 episode plus adventure, it's all the more important. But what makes a good pilot? I think you can look at it through the lens of 3 important pillars: an interesting premise, a reason to care, and finally, interesting world building. All 3 of these work in tandem to create and craft a compelling start to the show. Supernatural itself was born out of that exact idea. Originally, it was pitched as Route 66 meets The X-Files. Eric Kripke had only landed on the concept of 2 brothers hunting monsters after his first idea, which was about a tabloid reporter hunting urban legends, was rejected by the WB. The last-minute pivot ended up shaping the show's entire DNA, though. The WB was hooked on the mix of scares, mythology, and the sibling bond. And with Sam envisioned as the empathetic Luke Skywalker figure and Dean as the devil-may-care Han Solo, everything clicked into place. And what started as a scribbled notebook idea became one of network's longest-running shows. So why don't we dive into what makes Supernatural's pilot such a roaring success, and how it set the show up for its entire legacy. Supernatural is a procedural. It's not too far removed from something like CSI or NCIS, or any other Case of the Week show. But perhaps its closest kin is X-Files. The core concept early on was developing this world where anything and everything is real, and it's 2 brothers versus all of that. The X-Files was already wildly popular, and so, like I said, the creators took that general concept and matched it alongside urban legends, and I think that's a very compelling premise on its own. On top of that, the episode alone has a very interesting setup. The show doesn't ease the characters or the viewer into the world that it takes place in. Sure, Sam's been living in college and gets back on the saddle, so to speak, throughout the episode, but he still knows everything about monster hunting. There's not really anything for him to learn. Sam's thrust back into the life, though, when he's informed from Dean that their father is missing, which of course means that it's all hands on deck to find him. But I think the show already tells you so much without saying anything. Sam's hesitant to look for their dad, assuming that he's just drunk somewhere, but he goes to help him for Dean's sake. And all through the episode, he's determined to get back to Stanford at the end and complete his interview so he can continue his education. There's a divide in ideology between them, and it makes it really, really cool, especially since the divide isn't skeptic versus believer like on The X-Files. It's Sam wanting a normal life and Dean knowing this is all they're good for. And the episode leaves you just begging for more by the end of it. It opens up with the death of their mother, and by the end of the episode, we see Sam's current girlfriend, Jessica, die the same way. For me, this blew my damn mind when I was younger watching for the first time. It's such an exciting incident, and it shoves you into the story so well. The question changes from what killed their mom and into why is it still going after them. Every pilot needs a big twist at the end, I think, to stick the landing, and Supernatural's is such a satisfying twist ending. It sets Sam on a journey that mirrors his father's. Sam never knew their mother, but now the thing they're hunting is personal, and they've got work to do. I've already talked about the characters a bit, but I think they tether this episode more than any interesting premise or world building could. Sam and Dean feel alive thanks to wonderful performances from Jared Padalecki and Jensen Ackles, and the 2 of them just feel like they embody every piece of the script. I love their first interaction in Sam's apartment, showing that Sam still has it in him to protect himself, and then immediately shooting into their first hunt for the woman in white. The diverging opinions and beliefs in Sam and Dean is a core aspect to the character, and there's an obvious decision to frame characters like this. I think it would have been easy to have the 2 of them think the same, and I don't think the episode would necessarily have been bad or even that much worse for it, but it just shows a good job of how it was to set up for the entire show. And again, I love the parallels between Sam and his dad. It's clear throughout the episode the 2 of them didn't have the greatest relationship, but I love that also throughout the episode it shows that Sam doesn't have much memory of their mom. And he and Dean even start to get into it over the fact of it because Sam tells Dean that at least he had a relationship with their mom, and he never did. And then again, by the end of the episode, Sam is in the same position their father was 22 years ago. He has to hunt down the thing that killed his significant other. And throughout the entire first season, he becomes just as consumed with revenge as their dad. I think it's really, really cool. The two of them are more alike than you'd ever think. By the end of the pilot, Sam and Dean are fully defined and crafted characters. The heart of the show has been assembled, and going forward throughout the remainder of the show, that heart is going to be what makes it live for so long. That heart is going to separate this from other shows. That heart is what got me into it. It's definitely the reason to care. These characters are the reason to care. It's a beautiful dynamic, and it's one that really, really worked. It's such a simple execution of a wonderful concept. It's what makes the Supernatural pilot one of my favorites that I've ever seen, because it's such a great introduction into the world, premise, and its characters. Okay, Supernatural has to handle world building too, but it handles its world building a little differently than many other shows, and I think it goes hand in hand with its interesting premise of a roadshow hunting urban legends. Some pilots front-load lore, dumping rules and backstory onto the audience, but this one keeps much of its world deliberately hidden. There are no flashbacks to previous hunts, there's no cold open with their father hunting a monster, there's no long explanations and lengthy monologues about the supernatural. Instead, we're dropped into a story where the mythology feels lived in, but not explained. The mystery of what we don't see becomes part of the hook, inviting us to learn and want to discover more. The pilot manages to give us a window into that unseen through the use of real-world urban legends. They anchor the first monster in the Woman in White legend, and the show taps into something familiar, a story that viewers might have already heard of. They'll do this later with Bloody Mary, Wendigo, Phantom Travelers, and even the Hookman, and I think that's really, really cool. This choice grounds the show firmly in our world, suggesting that the things that we dismiss as myths and scary stories could actually be real. It's not abstract fantasy, it's horror stitched directly into the fabric of America. It makes the show feel accessible and all the more unsettling. The other major piece of storytelling and world building comes in the form of their dad's journal. It's not just a prop, it is a tool for storytelling. The journal works as both a plot device, giving Sam and Dean the information they need to fight creatures, and as a symbol of their father's looming presence, always guiding them when he's not even there. It suggests a much larger history of hunts, creatures, and secrets, and stories that predate the pilot that we may never see. And it gives the impression that this world stretches far beyond what we see on screen. What's clever is how these two elements, the legends and the journal, work together to expand the scope of the story without overwhelming it. Urban legends give us the gateway into the familiar fears, and then their dad's journal hints at the depths of knowledge that hunters can obtain. The pilot combines the two of these things in such a great way, and it never feels like you're lost, but it always feels like you know just enough to want more. And if you don't want to just take my thoughts on the pilot, I reached out to a fellow Supernatural creator to see what he had to think of Supernatural's debut episode.
It's honestly insane that it's been 20 years. And there's parts about the pilot that still make me chuckle to this day. Like when John discovers Mary, he turns around and he looks level, but really Mary's on the ceiling. I've always found that part a little bit funny. Or Sam's university friend who's there at the party and then never comes back in this show again, ever. But this opening pilot does so much to establish itself. It helps that it was directed by David Nutter, who would do pilots like Game of Thrones. And this episode has to carry a lot, because not only does it have to lay the foundation with the brothers and their mom going up in smoke, the dad being the catalyst of their entire upbringing, but then you also have the conversation, the massive amount of exposition that is both good and kind of but it does a great job, because once Dean starts going through the files, you are hooked. And despite the fact that I am one season away from reviewing every episode of the show, and I felt burnout at the absolute most burnout available, I kind of wanted to rewatch the entire show again just from this opener. Obviously, the jokes that still are great. My boots. I still laugh at my boots. And I've said this many a time, but the first few seasons of Supernatural had some of the best camera work, from the shadows to the pacing to the really intuitive blocking, the movement. It just felt like it actually had care behind the camera, both in front and behind it. And it didn't have that soap opera like feel that the show would eventually get. The pilot and the opening 5 seasons have stood the test of time because they were very well put together, and rewatching the pilot reminded me why I love this show. Even though it's been years since I last watched the pilot, it felt really good to watch it again. Thanks to Jay for letting me be a little part of this video. Very excited to see what the end product is.
But at the end of the day, the real strength of Supernatural's pilot is that it's just a well-crafted episode of TV. It's well written, it's got fantastic and utterly stunning cinematography. Seriously, I love the visual look of this entire episode, and all the vibes that the episode sets up and will continue to set up through future installments of the season. I'm also a huge fan of the editing too. It's really snappy and engaging, and I think that's another thing that can keep you entertained when watching a pilot like this. The show knows so clearly what it is and what it wants to be so early on, and I think that makes it such a strong watch. The mix of horror, family drama, and road trip Americana is already locked into place, and it gives the sense that the creators had a clear vision from the start. It's what makes these first 5 seasons feel like the masterpiece that they are. Thanks for joining me on the first day of Winchester week. Don't forget to check back in tomorrow at noon for the next chapter.